This is Thomas D'Alessandro Jr. Okay, he was the 41st mayor of Baltimore from 1947 to 1959, and he was in politics from a very young age. Now, there was a lot of allegations that he was very connected to the Italian mafia in Baltimore. But the part where my mind gets blown is, do you know who Thomas D'Alessandro is the father of? Nancy Pelosi, who we all know happens to be the best stock trader in the world.
This is not an attempt to ban TikTok. It's an attempt to make TikTok better. Tic-tac-toe. A winner.
As Biden finally leaves office, I'm going to tell you why he and people like Nancy Pelosi are so eager to ban TikTok. I'll also show you why TikTok is not out of the woods, even though Donald Trump has promised to save it. But before we get into it, let's take a look at what exactly has happened so far. It all began when many users started posting notifications like this one. As you can see, the app is basically telling the users that the services won't be available to them until Donald Trump takes office and helps resolve the situation. Now, we all knew this might happen since it has been all over the news for a while now.
The Supreme Court today upheld a decision that, unless the app finds an approved new owner by Sunday, then it will effectively be banned in the United States.
You said that, quote, Beijing is our #1 foreign threat. You have called TikTok a, quote, serious and direct threat.
But while these legacy media channels are happy to tell you why TikTok is bad for national security, our own agencies have said that this threat is purely hypothetical. The mainstream media also will not talk about who's actually funding the campaign against it. Well, don't you worry. I'm going to tell you all about it. Now, the main culprit on our list is, of course, Mark Zuckerberg. You see, last year when the House was busy passing the TikTok ban, Mark Zuckerberg's company Meta broke its own lobbying record. In its own disclosure, the company stated it had lobbied Congress and the White House on homeland security topics, including discussions regarding cybersecurity, data security, encryption, platform integrity, election integrity, content policy, and as well as issues related to voter suppression, interference, political ads, and misinformation policies. Now, I'm going to destroy their claims in a moment, but first, let me show you how people are treating Meta now that it has pretty much succeeded in banning TikTok.
Delete all Meta apps off your phone. Instagram, Facebook, Facebook Messenger, delete them right now. You don't have to delete your account, just delete the app. We've got 2 days to absolutely tank Meta's stock. Why is that important, you may ask? The Senate just shot down the act that would extend the TikTok ban deadline. Coincidentally, randomly, super silly, a lot of the members of Congress actually own stock, and a lot of it in Meta, who just so happen to be one of the biggest faces pushing the ban of TikTok. So I just want to get this straight. They rushed a bill to ban TikTok within a humanitarian aid bundle and just slipped it in there, didn't have to vote on it, didn't have to hear any testimonies from the Americans that use this app to put food on their table. They deny the act that would extend the deadline so that people like you and me could find jobs when this does get banned and actually put food on our table, all while doing this to increase the stock that they just purchased before this went through. Am I getting anything wrong here? So what's more important to you, your rights or an app? We outnumber them. Remember that.
I just want to remind you that we are here on this app for a reason. We're not posting on Instagram for a reason. We jumped that ship. And then that ship got jealous and tried to take down our ship. So I still have my account on Instagram, but I am not planning on being active there. And I hope that you do the same for at a minimum of a week, month. It's just social media. I mean, if it's your small business, I understand, but give yourself a break. All right? And don't give them any more money. I will be on Lemonade, if that's still around, Blue Sky and Red Note, but honestly, I don't know how much I'll be posting. But just think about why you're on the ship that you're on.
Now, despite the efforts of many such influencers, the simple fact remains. Meta is going to rake in billions of dollars of advertising money if the ban gets enforced. And you might look at this and think this is the reason why they've been trying to get TikTok out of the US market. But you'd be wrong, my friends. Even though billions of dollars are good for any company, Meta has always been more interested in getting your data. You see, the company has been used as a data harvesting tool by the NSA NSA for years and years, and that's exactly why it even received a $1.3 billion fine from the European Union. And how can we forget about the LifeLog project, which says the Pentagon canceled its so-called LifeLog project, an ambitious effort to build a database tracking a person's entire existence. Run by DARPA, the Defense Department's research arm, LifeLog aimed to gather in a single place just about everything an individual says, sees, or does. Now, interestingly, researchers close to the project say they're not sure why it was dropped late last month. DARPA hasn't provided an explanation for LifeLog's quiet cancellation. And David Karger, who was one of the MIT researchers working on this project, told Wired News, "I am sure that such research will continue to be funded under some other title. I can't imagine DARPA dropping out of such a key research area." Now, you might be wondering why we're talking about a 20-year-old project. Well, notice the date on the article, February 4th, 2004. And just a quick search will tell you that Facebook was founded on January 4th, 2004. So you tell me, do you think it's a coincidence that Facebook started right when Project LifeLog was dropped and is basically doing exactly what DARPA wanted to achieve with this project? You see, Zuckerberg's companies have always been deeply involved with these spy agencies, but that changed when TikTok blew up and became a platform of choice for more than 170 million Americans. So when Mark Zuckerberg criticizes TikTok or any other foreign app for their security issues, he's basically speaking for those agencies who are having trouble knowing about our lives because we're sharing it on TikTok rather than Facebook. Let's take a look at this clip.
Are you more worried that the Chinese are spying on us and propagandizing us, or are you more worried that the CIA is spying on us and propagandizing us?
He's asking a very important question. And as far as I'm concerned, I'd rather let Chinese companies see my data than our own agencies, because the only people who can really manipulate my life are sitting right here in the United States. And I have another question here. If we are so gung-ho about getting rid of Chinese influence, why are we letting them buy up all of the American farmland? As you can see from this map, China owns farmland near 19 major US military bases. And even more concerning is the fact that in 2023, the Wall Street Journal reported that Chinese intruders attempted to breach military facilities over 100 times in recent years, including sneaking onto a missile range in New Mexico and scuba divers spotted near a government rocket launch site in Florida. And remember when those drones were terrorizing Americans all over the country? Well, it turns out they were spotted near 17 military bases located next to Chinese-owned farms. Just a coincidence? I don't think so. Even the most gullible person will tell you that this looks like a serious national security issue, and yet when Senator Marsha Blackburn tried to do something about it, Biden and his cronies stopped her.
Let me ask you a question. What would you think if you found out that the farm that sat between you and a big military installation was going to be purchased by a group out of China owned in part by the Chinese Communist Party? Would you be worrying about your privacy? Would you worry about the sovereignty of our nation? Would you worry about the surveillance that's taking place on that military installation? I think you would. I've offered legislation that would shut that activity down. Guess who all voted against it? You got it. My colleagues across the aisle.
And how can we forget that there are multi-billion-dollar companies that have raised huge red flags thanks to their connection to China, and yet the media won't even mention them?
My question is, why should you be able to get any contracts in the United States government? If you're going to advise foreign nations who are hostile to us and make gobs of money off of them, why should you be getting U.S. government contracts?
Senator, we've never worked with the Chinese Communist Party or the central government in China, to the best of my knowledge.
You're working with state-owned enterprises. China's not a democracy. They own these companies. These companies are doing the bidding of the Chinese military, and you're making money off of it, hand over fist. My question is, I guess if you want to do that, I guess it doesn't violate the law. But I just wonder, why is it that you should then be able to turn around and make $850 million in 1 year alone off the American taxpayer? I mean, explain that to me.
Senator, our work with the federal government, we stand behind. We bring...
Well, I'm sure you do. It's incredibly lucrative. That's the problem. You make gobs of money off of our enemies, and then you turn around and you make gobs of money off of us. It's outrageous, frankly.
Now, luckily, there are still people in the government who are trying to do the right thing and save this platform. This includes people like Senator Rand Paul.
Why am I joining TikTok just as the government ban begins? Because I don't like being told what to do. I don't like being told what I can think or what I can say. The courts may think there's an exemption to the First Amendment. I don't. I joined TikTok today as a form of civil disobedience. To the 170 million Americans who use TikTok, don't give up, don't give in, resist.
He's not wrong. The government shouldn't be able to control our digital freedom. And we can't forget that despite its many flaws, TikTok has helped us become less dependent on these news channels. Now, anyone can share their problems and concerns and get some needed attention. For instance, just days ago, I read an article telling us how people were using TikTok to get donations for the victims of the Los Angeles fires. There were also many videos like this one all over TikTok.
If you're looking to help the LA fire victims, Sunday starting at 8 a.m. Riverside Airport Cafe. So John and Gigi of the Riverside Electric Light Parade and Leo Mamo of the cafe will start collecting items at 8 a.m. and throughout the day. They can take canned goods, water, toiletries, or diapers, but that's it. Riverside coming together. This is what it's all about.
Now, the good news is that President Donald Trump was quick to do something about this ban. In a Truth Social post, he wrote, "I'm asking companies not to let TikTok stay dark. I will issue an executive order on Monday to extend the period of time before the law's prohibitions take effect so that we can make a deal to protect our national security. The order will also confirm that there will be no liability for any company that helped keep TikTok from going dark before my order. Americans deserve to see our exciting inauguration on Monday, as well as other events and conversations. I would like the United States to have a 50% ownership position in a joint venture. By doing this, we save TikTok, keep it in good hands, and allow it to stay up. Without U.S. approval, there is no TikTok. With our approval, it is worth hundreds of billions of dollars, maybe trillions. Therefore, my initial thought is a joint venture between the current owners and or new owners, whereby the U.S. gets a 50% ownership in a joint venture setup between the U.S. and whichever purchase we so choose. Now, thanks to his post, TikTok resumed service and a crisis was averted. But this is where I have some bad news for you. Even though our next president seems determined to protect a beloved social media platform, some people in his inner group are giving mixed signals. For instance, Elon Musk tweeted, "I have been against a TikTok ban for a long time because it goes against freedom of speech. That said, the current situation where TikTok is allowed to operate in America, but X is not allowed to operate in China is unbalanced. Something needs to change." Now, this might just be a bargaining tactic since he's been in the conversation to buy the app, but this isn't a good sign. House Speaker Mike Johnson also has made it clear that he plans to uphold the ban. Also, don't forget, he was publicly backing the bill against TikTok last year when he said it's an important bipartisan measure to take on China, our largest geopolitical foe, which is actively undermining our economy and security. And we already know what kind of position Mark Zuckerberg has about TikTok, and that's why I think President Trump will face some resistance in solving this issue, but I do hope he succeeds. Another very interesting story I'd like to cover today is what was said during the confirmation hearing of South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem, who is going to be leading the Department of Homeland Security. And during the hearing, she said she's going to tell us all the facts about those attempted assassinations of Donald Trump.
My remaining seconds, just one more thing about the Secret Service. You've mentioned this, and I'm so glad that you did. This committee, and it has been bipartisan, this committee has done bipartisan work on the attempted assassinations, or the assassination attempts, I should perhaps say, of the former president, soon to be the future president, soon to be the president, President Trump. We were stymied at every turn. And I should use the present tense. We are currently being stymied at every turn by the current Secret Service leadership and, frankly, by the leadership of DHS, who have refused to turn over documents, who refused to make people available for interviews. We finally had to pass my own law in this committee, which we unanimously adopted, a law, a statute, mind you, which would require DHS and Secret Service to turn over relevant information to us about the assassination attempts. It's unbelievable. When you come to office, to this office, I hope very soon, will you pledge to us that you will open the books on all of the facts associated and around these assassination attempts, that you will make available to us and to the public, most importantly, all the facts so that we can ensure that this never happens again and that the needed reforms in the Secret Service are put into effect?
Yeah, Senator, if I am the Secretary of Homeland Security, I will certainly work with you to build transparency and make sure the facts are shared with you and your committee. I know that you've been very frustrated by the lack of transparency from the department, and I want to thank those of you that have worked on that report that was put together on these assassination attempts. I know it was a bipartisan report and investigation that this committee conducted, and I appreciate you focusing on that, and I will work with you to get the information so that you have the truth of really what happened there and the failures so they can be fixed.
She also reminded us that this administration is serious about the child trafficking issue.
Senator, the Trump administration never had a family separation policy. They had a zero tolerance policy, which said that our laws would be followed. What I'm alarmed by is the over 300,000 children that went missing during the Biden administration. And when we talk about children and what they're potentially facing as far as victimization in this country and the trafficking that's going on, this administration's lack of desire to find out where those children are or what they may be going through is alarming to me. So I want to stop that.
Because my time is expiring, I'm just going to interrupt again with apologies to say, let's put aside.
Well, I can't put aside 340,000 children.
Labels. Let's put aside what happened in the past. There are still 1,000 children who are separated and waiting to be reunited. I'd like your commitment that you're going to continue the effort to reunite them with their parents.
Senator, keeping families together is critically important to me and to this country.
Next up, I want to discuss this polar vortex that is now headed for 30 states with warnings of life-threatening cold weather. And while the rest of the country might be able to buckle down during this intense weather, I just want to remind you that people in North Carolina are still living in tents.
We're out in Burnsville right now, laying down some hay for some of these families who lost their homes and are unfortunately living in these tents. Clint over here, as you can see, it is a freaking muddy mess over here. So we're helping them out, getting some of this hay on the ground. Hopefully it'll make it a little more solid for them.
Good morning from Western North Carolina. I guess we're out here again, begging FEMA to extend hotel vouchers. I feel like, are we doing this every other day now, where we just beg FEMA to actually give us some help? There are 3,500 families currently in hotels that FEMA thankfully extended just for 24 hours. That's nice. But if FEMA does not extend those hotel vouchers today, they have to be out tomorrow morning in this. It is 17 degrees outside, snowing. The roads are frozen over. A lot of these families don't even have cars, but the ones that do are going to go sleep in those. Our intake form for Operation Shelter tripled overnight. Aaron sent out a ton of texts to people asking for help. This is insane. I cannot believe we are out here yet another day just begging FEMA to help us.
And since we know FEMA has a habit of pushing people out of their hotel rooms, it's only the local charities that are providing these victims the supplies they need to survive in this weather.
We're going through propane quicker than we can blink. Like, holy moly. Okay, let me give you an idea. I'm running a medium-sized buddy heater in my camper. I ran it all night last night. Today, I went through one tank in 24 hours of a big propane tank. So that is around $750 a month just for propane. And that's not to cook or nothing. I just ran one heater. So we've really got to come up with long-term solutions for heating, we need propane donations, but the problem is that all these relief groups are spending all of our money on propane and we're not able to be building back. And we're going to get stuck in this limbo of not being able to build back because all of our resources are going towards heating people, which is obviously very necessary.
And ironically, many of these charities won't even be able to operate without platforms like TikTok. So it turns out a Chinese company might be helping our very own people in their time of need. And that's going to do it for today's video. Don't forget to share your thoughts with everyone in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope to see you in the next one.